Welcome to Piecemeal, a podcast hosted by the Emily Program. Piecemeal covers topics related to eating disorders, body image, and how society may influence our thinking. Please use your discretion when listening and speak with a therapist as needed. I'm your host, Jillian Lampert, and today is our first episode of a new feature that we are starting. It's called Between Bites, and it just has me. So just Jillian, Between Bites. And the idea of Between Bites is to give listeners a little snippet of information around really important topics that come up time and time again. And so we've been thinking, our podcast crew here has been thinking about how we can best get folks information about those really important topics. And so today we are going to start with school, eating disorder treatment and school. It's one of the biggest areas of questions that families have, that parents have specifically. It's one of the critical areas, obviously, of a young person's life. And when it comes to eating disorder treatment, a lot of times we hear something along the lines of, I know my child needs treatment for this eating disorder, but what about school? They're on a path for academic achievement. They have a lot of AP classes. We're worried about them falling behind in school. How will eating disorder treatment impact their education? Will it interrupt their trajectory? What about if they're in college? Will eating disorder treatment disrupt their ability to graduate? How will it all work? And so we wanted to spend a little bit of time in this first inaugural Between Bites episode to talk about these ideas around school. And so we'll start with school for younger folks. So folks who are not yet graduated from high school, what do we think about when we think about school and eating disorder treatment? We generally start from a perspective of we want the young person to continue on their academic trajectory and to have the success and experience in school that everybody wants for them. And eating disorders have the second highest mortality rate, any mental health condition, which means that they can be life-threatening. These are very serious illnesses that can be life-threatening. And so we really want young people to get the care they need, the medical and psychological and nutritional care and support that they need, and the education they need, and the education families need to really overcome this eating disorder and to recover from an eating disorder. We know that full recovery from an eating disorder is 100% possible. And so we want to have young people have the best opportunity to achieve recovery. And that's why we, I think, end up in this tension between eating disorder treatment and school. And so I'll often ask families to think about the situation perhaps this way, right? You have just learned that your child has an eating disorder. Perhaps you've gotten a recommendation that your child needs eating disorder treatment that seems pretty intensive. That to have that kind of eating disorder treatment would require them to be not present in school, to miss school, or to be out of school because they have been recommended to receive care in a partial hospital program, meaning they're going to be in treatment during the day for an extended period of time, or they have gotten a treatment recommendation for residential treatment or inpatient treatment. Those are 24/7 treatment settings where young people are in a treatment setting that means they're not going to school during that time. And that can be really overwhelming for families to think about how does that work? How does my young person stop going to school and go to treatment? And I totally acknowledge that is can be an overwhelming and scary time in so many ways, particularly since you've just learned that your child has a really significant illness, a really serious illness that can have really dire consequences. And so I often will encourage families to think about it this way. If your child had something happen to them, they were in an accident and they needed to be admitted to the hospital, and they were in the hospital for an extended period of time while they recovered, you wouldn't pause really to think about, should we do that course of treatment and what will it mean for school? You would get your child into that treatment that they needed, and then worry about the pieces like school and other things once they're started. And we encourage you to think about it that way as a parent. And I'm a parent, so I understand the idea of having some significant interruption in your child's educational career, and really, most importantly, a significant interruption in your child's health and well-being. And of course, everybody wants we're all aligned that we want your child to be well. And so that's how I'd encourage you to think about eating disorder treatment. If you get a recommendation that your child needs to be in a level of treatment that means that they're not in school for a while, I would encourage you to get your child into that level of treatment and worry about school once your child has started in that level of care. And the great thing is that we're going to be there to help you along the way. We're going to be there to worry about that with you. And in fact, because we have school integrated into our 24-hour, 7-day-a-week programs, we're actually going to explain to you how school will work, because it will continue. Your child will continue on their education path to the degree that their health permits, but your child will continue on their education path while they're in treatment. And so they actually will continue in school. In our residential programs and our inpatient programs, students receive 2 to 3 hours of school a day. They're in the classroom. They're actually in a classroom in our facilities working with teachers. They get an education experience that helps them to continue on their trajectory. So in that sense, it'll be part of their care. And so we'll help you worry about that. In the situation where your child maybe is in partial hospital treatment, where they're in treatment for a chunk of the day, we'll be there with you as you think about school. We partner with school districts. We will work with you. Our staff will work with the staff at your child's school to make sure that you can get the assignments that your student needs and keep up in school in the way that works best for them, along with what's working best for them in terms of their health. And schools are also really good at this. Schools know that kids have to step away from school for different kinds of medical treatments. They understand that things happen that disrupt schedules for families and that disrupt the typical pattern of schooling. And so they're also really well equipped to help families. They have lots of experience with this. They have support staff that can help, and they are open to that conversation. And so if school and concerns about what will happen with your child are holding you back from admitting your child into care, as a parent, as a clinician, worked in eating disorders for a long time, I would say the best thing you can do for your child is get them into treatment, and then together we'll worry about what's going to happen with school, and it really will be okay. I know it's easy to say that, but I really believe this. It will be okay, because we're going to help you make it okay. And you know your child best. And so together we're going to find a path forward that allows your child to continue their education path. If your child is in college and or some sort of higher education post high school, we can help with that too. And again, colleges are really set up to work with kids who need to attend to their health while they're at college or university or trade school or technical school or in an apprenticeship. They're used to that too. Things happen. People have health concerns that require them to step away and manage their health. And so schools are really pretty well equipped to manage that. If your student is in college, sometimes people need to take a break from a semester. They take a semester off. And again, parents worry about, and students themselves worry about, what about my athletic career? What about my scholarship? What about my housing? What about my friends? What about my college life? And again, we are going to help you worry about that. We really, same thing I said about high school kids or younger school kids, middle school kids or elementary school kids that happen to need treatment for an eating disorder. With kids who are in college or trade school or a technical school or an apprenticeship, really their priority needs to be their health so that they can continue their education. Eating disorders are serious illnesses, and they can really rob your student of health and well-being. And keeping a student in school where they're, during the time that they're continuing to struggle with educational achievement because the eating disorder is starting to impact their ability to manage their coursework, to pay attention in class, to get good grades. We really want our students to be able to excel, and we really want your child to be able to have the brain power, the glucose going to their brain, the nutrition they need to excel in school. And so if your student is in a higher education program, again, we're going to work with you to make sure that continues them on their trajectory to the degree that makes sense. And the university or the college or the school will also work with you. Colleges are really well set up to help students, to work with students. And most importantly, and I say this as somebody, again, who's a parent, somebody who's been a clinician for a long time, and somebody who had an eating disorder in high school and college, I don't remember a lot of what my college experience was. I missed out on a lot of my college experience because I was ill with my eating disorder. I was not well nourished. I wasn't learning as well as I could have. And I really wish that I could have had more intensive treatment so that I could have experienced school better. And I tell you that because I got great grades in college and high school. And if I could do one thing over in my life, I would do college over again because I missed a lot of what college has to offer. So grades aren't everything. You really want your student, I know you do, you really want your child to have a great experience. And having an eating disorder and trying to go to college at the same time can be really, really difficult and not very fulfilling for the student. So if your child is in a higher education program and you're wrestling with, should we take a break from school and what happens if we do this more intensive eating disorder program, I would strongly encourage you to first think about your child's health, which I know you are. Think about their health, think about getting them the care they need, and the pieces with school, they're going to fall into place. I encourage you to look. We have a section on our website that's all about eating disorder treatment and school support for teens, particularly, and for families. There's some really great conversations that you can have with your treatment team, with your support folks based on your concerns about school. Please talk to us if you're engaged with the Emily program. If you're engaged with any eating disorder treatment program, talk to them about your concerns around school because we're all really standing by, ready to help you and your loved one excel in school. We all want the same thing. And we really want your child to be able to excel in school in a way that can be really meaningful and fulfilling for them too. So that's our time today. I hope that this has been helpful if you're thinking about school and your loved one. Again, let us know if you have questions. If you are wrestling with how to figure this out, please talk to your child's treatment team, talk to the support you have in your life. Make sure that your student is getting what they need. And we know your child can recover, that eating disorders, they're not a phase, they need treatment, and your child can recover. Let us know how we can help you. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you've enjoyed today's episode of Piecemeal, please rate or review at Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. Thanks for listening. Learn more about us at emilyprogram.com or find the Emily Program on social media. Piecemeal is produced by our amazing podcast team at the Emily Program, and we're excited that you listened to this inaugural issue of Between Bites. Thanks for listening.